Hello and welcome to the world of MythMash. I'm Sam Avalon, head of Studio Spicy and designer of MythMash. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up and play your very own first game. Now, while I'm not going to be going over every single rule of the game in this video, my goal is that by the end, you'll have a general overview of how the game is played, and you'll be ready to set up and play your own first game, consulting the rulebook, of course, where needed. Now, if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments, or reach out via my website, sp1cy.com/connect. Either way, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, with that out of the way, why don't we get down to the game table, and I will show you how to play. All right, here we are. This is MythMash. So before we talk about how the game is played, let me talk a little bit about what the game is. So MythMash is a two-player card game that borrows elements from trick-taking, deck building, and classic TCG card battling games. At the core of the gameplay is one simple round structure that you'll essentially play over and over and over again until somebody wins the game. And it goes something like this. You and your opponent will both have these hands of 7 cards, from which you will bid cards across 3 unique battles every round for 3 cards from this treasure deck. Whoever wins the battle will get to keep the card, and the cards can do anything from scoring you points to adding more cards to your deck. We'll look at those in just a second, but the way that you win the game is by collecting 15 points worth of treasure from this treasure deck. As soon as that happens, the game is over, and the player with 15 points wins the game. Now, before we talk more about battling and what that looks like, let's look at the 3 types of cards that you'll find in this treasure deck. So the first is, of course, treasure. So treasure is just strictly points. This card in particular is worth 4 points. They're worth different points. There's cards that are worth 3, some that are worth 5 even. But as soon as one player collects 15 points worth of treasure, they win the game immediately. So when you win a treasure from a battle, you're just going to take it and place it off to the side of your play area in an area called your vault, where it's yours to keep. It's outside of your deck, and it's yours for the rest of the round, unlike some of the cards, which we'll see here in just a moment. So the next type of card mixed into this treasure deck is, of course, heroes. So heroes, this is sort of the deck building component of the game. So when you win a hero card, instead of going to your vault, they're going to go to your discard pile, where they will eventually be shuffled back into your deck and then drawn back into your hand so that you can use them in later battles down the line. Now, any heroes that you get from this deck here will be substantially stronger than the heroes that you start with in your starting hand here. So we'll see that Max not only has 3 power, which is more than any of our current heroes, but also has an ability where if it's the only card that we bid with, the only card that we play this battle, then he gets 3 extra power, making him a 6 power card, extremely strong. And yeah, you'll see more about what that could look like here in just a moment when we run through a sample battle. The last type of card in this treasure deck is called mashup cards. Now, mashups are unique in that whenever these come out, you actually won't battle over them. Instead, the peaceful player, which is, again, a term that we will touch on here in just a moment when we talk about battling, the peaceful player will have a very interesting decision to make. I'll let you sort of read this card. But essentially, the peaceful player will get to choose one. You'll either trade hands, decks, or discard piles with your opponent. Now, if you're a fan of deck building games or even trading card games, you'll realize immediately how absolutely insane that effect is. It really has a huge impact on the game and can swing momentum from one side to the other. Worth pointing out, though, that it can't entirely decide the game, since the treasure cards that you're collecting will stay outside of your deck or hand or discard pile and are not vulnerable to being stolen away from mashup cards. However, everything else in your deck is. So there's sort of some skill in thinking about where you're keeping your cards, where you have good cards right now, and making that decision as difficult for your opponent as you can make it, should they happen into a mashup card. So those are the 3 types of cards in the treasure deck. So now why don't we just play through a quick round here. so that you will be able to jump into your first game of Mythmash shortly after. So one more thing to talk about before we jump into it is this Peaceful card. So Peaceful is a status that's going to get passed back and forth between the players over the course of the game. Whoever wins a battle, of course, like we talked about, gets to keep the card that they win. Whoever loses the battle gets this Peaceful card sort of as a consolation prize. And there's 3 advantages to being peaceful. The first is, as we just saw, you'll get to control these mashup cards when they come out. The second is that you will get to bid after your opponent bids, so you'll actually get to see how many cards your opponent played down. You don't get to see what the cards are, they're played face down, but you will get to see how many they played, and that sort of adds an additional context to your bidding that makes it a lot easier to know what to bid. And the third advantage of being peaceful is that if you happen to tie for power with your opponent in any battle, the peaceful player will break the tie, win the battle. So 3 big advantages to being peaceful. Sometimes it's worth losing a battle just so that you can be peaceful for the next battle, if you feel like the card coming up might be a lot more valuable to you than the card that you're currently battling over. But that's enough hypotheticals. Let's just get into a quick turn here, a quick round, and I think you'll get a grasp for what's going on here very quickly. So we both start with our hands of 7 cards. When you're setting up the game, make sure that each player starts with the same hand of these 7 starter cards. You can see they have the starter tag up in the corner there. Hopefully you can see that. It's the same hand, same cards that both players start with. Also worth noting that you do not start with a deck. All of the cards that you start with begin the game in your hand. So at the end of this round, you'll have 7 cards in your discard pile, no cards in your deck. You'll shuffle those up to make your new deck and then draw your new hand from that. Yeah, so anyways, we've got our hand of 7 cards, and again, we'll have these 7 cards to battle over these 3 cards with. So the first thing we do is flip over the top card, and we see that it's a hero that we're battling over. So this is Mina and Morrow, and again, whoever wins this battle will get to keep this card. They'll add it to their discard pile and eventually shuffle it back into their hand, their deck, and draw it into their hand. So Mina and Morrow has an interesting ability where they let you either weaken or humble a card in play. So let's talk about what that means. Along with these tokens over here, we have humbled and weakened tokens. These are the 2 special conditions in the game, and they're very simple, very straightforward. Whenever a card is weakened, they have no power. So I like to take this weakened token and put it right over the power number to essentially remember that this card has no power for this round. And similarly, a humbled token, or a humbled card, rather, has no ability. So you place this token over their ability box, and that helps you remember that they cannot use their ability this battle. So that's all that means. Of course, that doesn't mean anything right now exactly, because Mina and Morrow is not in play. This is just the card that we're battling over. Whoever wins this battle will get to keep this card. So I will bid first. I have to bid first since my opponent is peaceful here. And again, I can bid as many or as few cards as I want for Mina and Morrow. I could bid my whole hand if I wanted to. I could take all 7 of my cards, plop them down, and my opponent would say, wow, okay, I don't think I'm winning that. The trade-off would be that while I would get this card, they would get these next 2 cards, which is probably going to be a pretty good trade for them. So I don't want to do that. The trick is to bid exactly as much as you think you need to in order to beat your opponent's bid. Again, that makes bidding as a peaceful player much easier than bidding as the not peaceful player. But let's say I'll play 2 cards for this. My soldier and my knight, which is going to give me a total of 3 power. Battles, by the way, are decided by the total power of the cards that you play. And of course, the abilities on your cards can have an impact on that, but ultimately it's the power that you really care about in deciding a battle. So I play these face down. My opponent doesn't know what the cards are, but they do know how many cards I've played, so that can help them make an informed decision here. So maybe they'll say, okay, I like Mina and Morrow a lot. This could, be 2 power, or it could be 4 power. I'll go ahead and play 4 power so that I can secure this card for myself. So once both players have bid, we flip over the cards. And we see that I bid 3 and my opponent bid 4. So they would get Mina and Morrow. And they would take that card along with the other cards that they played this round and discard them. Put them in their discard pile right over here. I also discard my cards that I played. And I get the peaceful card since I lost that battle. And now it's really just rinse and repeat. So we flip over the next card. We see that it's again a hero. So this is Ulrock. And you can see he has 4 power. He's super powerful, as well as an ability that says you may retire a card in play with 2 or less power. If you do, discard this card. So this is a good opportunity to talk about retiring. Retiring is essentially like trashing or scrapping or other terms like that that you'll find in lots of deck building games. Whenever a hero is retired, they go up above this deck and are essentially removed from the game for the rest of the game. So that is what retiring is, and Ulrock is one of the cards in the deck that lets you do that. So he's pretty strong. My opponent's going to have to bid first here. And let's say that they put down let's have them play their summoner, and maybe they try to bluff me. So they're going to play 2 soldiers along with that. So they would play these face down, and now I have to respond. And maybe I will... maybe I'll play my 2 knights and my soldier to respond to that. So we flip these over, and we see, okay, they've got 2 power to start to my 5 power, which is looking very good for me. However, their summoner does have an ability. So the summoner reads, reveal the top card of the treasure deck. If it's a hero, this card gains their power and ability. After this battle, return the card to the bottom of the treasure deck. So this summoner essentially becomes whatever this card is as long as it's a hero. If it's not a hero, you just immediately return it to the bottom. But if it is, let's find out if it is. Oh, and it is. Okay, so this summoner for this round becomes Aurilla, who is also a 0 power, but she has the ability, you get +1 power for each card in your discard pile. It's very good for my opponent. They have 3 cards in their discard pile over here, which means they're going to get +3 power. We'll take a +2 and a +1 token to remember that that's what their power is. So that brings them up to 5 total power. Now, lucky for me, I also have 5 total power, as it just so happens, and I'm peaceful. So we're tied in power, and again, the tie goes to the peaceful player, which is me. Very lucky on my account that all worked out so nicely. So I'll get to keep Ulrock, and my opponent will return Aurilla to the bottom of the deck, and then discard their cards, and they get the peaceful card. So now going into the last battle here, worth pointing out that the last battle is always what I like to call all in. So at the end of the 3rd battle, if you have any cards left in your hand, you're going to discard those so that you can start with a totally fresh hand of 7 cards at the beginning of the next round. That makes it so that there's almost never any reason to not play cards on the 3rd round. So what I usually do is we'll just flip this over. Okay, we're bidding on gold this time. That's fun. And we'll just throw the cards down. Throw the remaining cards in your hand down and see what happens. So let's see. My opponent, I'm resolving first since I played my cards first. If we both had text on some cards here, then whoever plays their cards first gets to resolve their cards first. And I should also note that you do have to resolve all of your cards that you play, but you can do so in any order. So if I had multiple cards with text on them like this, I could resolve them in any order that I want to, but I would have to resolve all of them. And the order does oftentimes matter quite a bit when you're sort of stringing together combos across multiple cards. So I've got my summoner card here. I'm going to flip over this card and see if I get anything off of it. Okay, so I just flipped over Gemstones. That is not a hero, which means my summoner is just a plain 0 power, not contributing anything to this battle, and that's going to let my opponent easily win this gold card. So they would take this, put it in their vault off to the side there, and that would be theirs to keep for the rest of the game, and they are 3 points on their way towards winning this game of Mythmash. So after this, we would just discard everything we've got. Setting up for the next round, I'll go over briefly before I send you on your way to start your own first game. All you do is draw cards from your deck until you've got 7 cards in your hand. Obviously, we don't have any cards in our deck right now, so whenever that's the case, you will shuffle your discard pile to form a new deck. And it is worth shuffling since we got more than 7 cards in there now. And then we will draw a hand of 7, or I should say we will continue drawing cards from this new deck until we have 7 cards in our hand. So if we had like, say, 2 cards in our deck before, we would draw those cards first and then shuffle the discard pile to make a new deck and draw the remaining 5 cards from that. So I would draw 7 cards, my opponent would do the same. We deal out 3 more cards from the treasure deck here that we're going to be battling over, and then we would just repeat the same steps over and over and over again until somebody gathers 15 points worth of treasure. Now, the gameplay is pretty vanilla, as you just saw. There is, still quite a bit of strategy to, how many cards do I want to play? What do I think my opponent's played? What do I think these 3 cards are? So on and so forth. But as you start to collect more heroes into your hand and start to get rid of your starter cards, you get a lot more abilities in play, and you start to be able to chain together combos on your cards, and that's really where the fun of the game starts to take off. So that is Mythmash. That is how the game is played, and hopefully you feel equipped now to go on and start your own first game. So there you go. That's how you play Mythmash. Hopefully that all made sense to you. Again, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop a comment down below. I will respond as soon as I can. Maybe we can turn into sort of a designer FAQ section. If you enjoyed the video today, if you enjoyed the game, feel free to hit that like button too. Heck, even hit the subscribe button if you want to. I do all kinds of fun content here on the channel. I do a podcast every week called Kickstarter Quest with my buddy Arl, so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely hit that subscribe button. But either way, I really hope that you enjoy Mythmash. And until next time, happy gaming, take it easy, and I'll see you again right here on Studio Spicy.